What's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here then welcome to our little corner of the internet. Today we're going to be watching a video titled Isolated in America, 15 weirdest side of New Jersey you won't believe exist. 15 weirdest side. I'm guessing it means 15 weirdest sides of New Jersey you wouldn't believe exist. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into New Jersey.
New Jersey has always had a weird reputation, but not the loud kind of weird. These are small towns that don't seek attention, but spark curiosity because of how they've managed to hold on to things that feel out of place. There's a colonial village that lives like electricity was just invented yesterday, a beach town that looks like a postcard from the 1880s, and even an art community rising out of old factory buildings.
Love it.
They're not modern, but they're not fully old either. They live in a gray area that makes New Jersey way more interesting than outsiders expect. If you want to see the quirkiest, most unexpected side of the Garden State, this is the list you need to start with. Let's get weird. This place feels like a small
I don't know why I'm whispering. They can't hear me anyways. I have my window, like there's a little window in front of me, and there's houses in front of me with windows, and I think I just saw someone put the light on and look into my window from the other window, but it's okay.
Crack in New Jersey that makes people stop and ask, why does this town still exist? As soon as you step in, everything feels too intact for a place abandoned for over 100 years. The workers' homes, the glass shop, and the Wharton family mansion all stand neatly, like the town just hit pause a few minutes ago, even though everyone's been gone for ages. That feeling only grows stronger when you realize one thing. Batsto is located in the middle of the Pine Barrens, a region full of strange tales and local legends. What makes this town even more fascinating is its history. Batsto was once the biggest producer of glass and iron in the area.
I love that.
But slowly faded without any big drama. West Milford is a low-profile town, and that's exactly where its weirdness starts. A lot of towns have legends, but few have physical phenomena and real criminal history on record. The most famous example is Clinton Road, a 16-kilometer stretch that often shows up in studies of unexplained places. There's one spot where a car...
Is this we watched a video on the loneliest road ever? Is this the one?
...car can move uphill in neutral, an effect that still sparks scientific debate about contour illusions and perspective. In 1983, the area made national headlines when police discovered a body that was eventually tied to a New York mafia member, turning West Milford into one of the key locations in a major organized crime investigation of the era. This wasn't a rumor. It's part of official case files that made Clinton Road a symbol of real weirdness, not just local gossip. Beyond that, West Milford is also home to remnants like Cross Castle, ruins found by hiking clubs in the 1980s. Seaside Heights is the kind of beach town whose weirdness isn't mystical. It's in how much its personality changes by season, like two different identities in one zip code. In summer, the town is full of retro arcades, roller coasters, oceanfront bars, and a vibe that feels over the top but fun. One of the most striking facts is the Jetstar roller coaster tragedy, when it was swept into the sea by Hurricane Sandy in 2012. and instead of being cleared right away, it stood out in the ocean for months. People came just to see the broken ride sitting on the waves, like some apocalyptic art installation. Photos
Wow. That's wild though.
of it made global news.
Is this the...
Ocean for months. People came just to see the broken ride sitting on the waves, like some apocalyptic art installation. Photos of it made global news and accidentally turned this town into a symbol of surreal coastal America.
This looks like the attractment. Is that what it's called? The park from what is it called? Oh my goodness, it just left my brain. The game, the GTA.
Ocean Grove falls into the weird category because of its mixed identity. It's part beach town, part living museum, and part 19th century religious campground that still operates today. The most striking feature is definitely the rows of white tents set up every summer. These aren't decorations or modern glamping setups. They're part of a tradition that started in 1869 when the town was founded as a Methodist camp meeting ground. To this day, over 100 families still live in these tents every summer.
So it's basically like a forever camping zone.
This kind of phenomenon is almost unheard of anywhere else in the US. What makes Ocean Grove even weirder is its legal structure. For over a century, the town didn't allow cars to drive through on Sundays because of religious rules. That regulation only officially ended in the 1980s. Even now, the town square is still used for large spiritual gatherings, yet it's only steps away from the beach and modern-looking shops. Interestingly, Ocean Grove has the highest concentration of Victorian houses in the entire country.
This house right here looks like from a kid's story that we used to read in Finland all the time. It's called Moomin. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's very, very popular in Finland. And this house reminds me so much of their house. It's nearly identical, at least from my memory. I love it. So cool.
Asbury Park is known for music. Bruce Springsteen found his artistic roots here, but it's the town's cracks that make it weird. One of the most interesting facts is the presence of Tilly, a creepy mascot face that's been painted on the Palace Amusement's wall since the 1950s. When the building was demolished, locals saved the mural because it was seen as a cultural icon, even though the face itself looks more like something from a nightmare. That's Asbury, a little eccentric, a little absurd. Its boardwalk still keeps old arcades, retro photo studios, and art shops selling strange items from different eras, as if the whole town intentionally lets objects from 60 years ago just stick around. Margate City is a pretty ordinary beach town, if not for one thing, Lucy the Elephant, a 6-story elephant-shaped building that's been standing since 1881.
What?
A giant animal-shaped building, not a
I have never seen that ever before.
statue, but an actual structure, automatically puts Margate on the list of New Jersey's weirdest towns. What makes it even more unique is that Lucy has served as a hotel, a bar, and even a home. Imagine waking up inside the belly of a giant wooden elephant. That's the kind of experience you can only have in Margate. But the town's weirdness doesn't stop there. Margate is one of the few beach areas that still holds on to a mix of fancy vacation vibes and a retro atmosphere from the early 1900s that hasn't fully disappeared. Many of its old buildings are still intact, creating a vibe that feels a little out of place, especially with Lucy towering in the middle of it all, like an eccentric beach guardian.
I love it. I love the idea of it, but I would feel so awkward if that was my home to like walk out in the morning, to, I don't know, walk your dog, take a coffee. Like everybody would be like, yeah, that weirdo that lives inside the elephant.
Hamilton has an identity that's so specific it becomes unique, and a little absurd for a town in New Jersey. It's known as the blueberry capital of the world. This isn't just a slogan. About 80% of New Jersey's blueberries come from here, and every year they host a big festival with parades, blueberry eating contests, and odd products like blueberry wine and blueberry hot sauce. Everything's blue, everything's themed, and
Ooh, blueberry hot sauce sounds very good though.
everything's serious. But what makes Hamilton even weirder is its super diverse community, even though the town itself is actually very remote. It has a large Italian-American population, then suddenly also grew a Latin community and a group of indie artists who opened small galleries throughout downtown. So, on one street, you'll find a classic Italian bakery, an avant-garde mural, a farm shop, and a blueberry wine bar, all within a few hundred meters. At one point, Hamilton made the list of small towns in South Jersey with the highest number of restaurants and art galleries relative to its population. Millville looks like a simple town, but the more you explore, the more it feels weird in an interesting way. It used to be the glass industry hub of New Jersey, and traces of that era are still alive at the Wheaton Arts and Cultural Center, a creative complex that feels like a world of its own. Visitors can watch traditional glassmaking, meet resident artists, and explore a museum that holds one of the most complete antique glass collections in the state. It feels like a small town that quietly became a center of modern-day alchemy. Another unique fact, Millville is home to the Millville Army Airfield, where P-47 fighter pilots trained during World War II. This old airfield has now been turned into an aviation museum, creating an unusual mix of glass art, military history, and old industrial town charm.
I would love to learn how to work with glass, but I think that I'm so clumsy, that would not end up well.
Downtown Millville also has an artsy vibe, thanks to rows of galleries, large murals, and an active local theater. Lambertville feels like a small page out of New Jersey's storybook. Quiet, artsy, but with a strong sense of history. It once thrived because of the Delaware and Raritan Canal, remnants of which can still be seen today, complete with the towpath that locals use for walks or bike rides. Then there are the old factory buildings that used to be the backbone of the 19th century economy, now repurposed into galleries, artist studios, and small workshops. Every weekend, the town pulses gently, not with big crowds, but through small, steady activities. The Golden Nugget Flea Market, an independent bookstore that's been around for decades, and rows of antique shops that attract collectors from all over the East Coast. Interestingly, Lambertville was once named the Antiques Capital of New Jersey, and that title isn't just a slogan.
It looks like from a movie scene. It's really, really cute.
Frenchtown is a small town with a strong personality, beautiful, artsy, but with a unique and slightly quirky vibe that makes people remember it after just one visit. With a population of around 1,300, the town sits peacefully on the edge of the Delaware River, complete with an old iron bridge that serves as its most iconic entrance. The name Frenchtown isn't just a gimmick. The town was actually settled by waves of French immigrants in the early 1800s, including Paul-Henri Mallet, a Swiss-French historian who became one of the key figures in its early development. What makes this town even more weird is its ever-present artsy energy, despite being in a remote location. The town also has a flea market and the Frenchtown River Fest, a yearly festival along the river and downtown with live music.
Falafel and fries?
A yearly
Falafel and fries. Ooh, count me in.
festival along the river and
hungry.
downtown with live music, food vendors, community activities, and local arts and crafts.
That girl is so pretty. She looks like an angel.
Mount Holly is one of those small New Jersey towns that seems ordinary at first, but the deeper you dig, the more you think, this place is actually kind of unique. The town has a strange mix of dark history, eccentric art, and old houses full of strong character, all packed into a small downtown. One example is Milrace Village, an art district filled with small studios, antique shops, and galleries that give off an alternate universe vibe. Quiet, slightly spooky, and full of
So
items
cute.
that feel like they each have a backstory. This area used to be an industrial zone, but turned into a creative enclave after artists took over the old buildings. What puts Mount Holly in the weird category is the presence of Mount Holly Prison, a 19th century jail that's now a museum and often listed as one of the most haunted spots in New Jersey.
Ooh. I like that.
Cape May is a beach town so perfectly pretty that it starts to feel a little too perfect, and that's where its weirdness comes in. Picture more than 600 Victorian buildings, the largest number anywhere in the US, all painted in pastel colors like
Again, this is so pretty though. It has its charm for sure.
a fantasy movie set. The town is so charming, it feels like a living museum that refuses to change. But Cape May really is the oldest seaside
Wow.
resort in America. People have been vacationing here since the early 1800s. What makes the town even more unique is how seriously it celebrates odd things, like the annual Victorian Weekend, a festival where adults dress up in 19th century outfits and roam the streets like they've stepped out of a time machine. Cape May is also known as a bird migration hotspot, especially for the hundreds of thousands of shorebirds that stop by every spring. Cranbury looks like a super quiet town, but it's exactly that quietness that gives it a weird charm that sets it apart from other small towns in New Jersey. It's often called one of the best preserved colonial villages in the state, not a reconstructed version, but a real 18th century neighborhood that's still alive today. Interestingly, Cranbury played an important role when George Washington retreated from Trenton in 1778. The old houses along Main Street aren't just for show. Some were actually used as strategic locations by generals. And strangely, for such a small town, the colonial architecture is laid out so neatly, it feels like walking through a historical diorama.
Again, I have nothing to say. It looks magical. It's beautiful. I don't know how I would feel about living somewhere like this though. But I think to visit that would be amazing.
Haddonfield might look like your typical suburban town, but it's actually one of the most unique places in New Jersey because of a strange bit of history that no other town has. This is where the Hadrosaurus folki was discovered, the first nearly complete dinosaur fossil ever found in America, back in 1858. To this day, a dinosaur statue sits in the middle of town, and it feels kind of absurd to see such a neat little place full of elegant boutiques paired with a giant dinosaur icon. What makes Haddonfield even weirder is how it keeps its colonial charm without feeling like a fake tourist spot. Its main street is full of independent shops with a classic look, and that's what makes it feel like the past is still running. Some buildings still show traces of the 1700s, and there are plenty of local rumors about old houses being haunted, not in a super scary way, but more like small stories passed down by locals. Clinton is a small town that looks like a living postcard. Quiet, neat, and pretty, but that exact mix is what gives it a weird charm, different from other towns in New Jersey. Its icon, the Red Mill, is one of the most photographed buildings in the whole state. But it's not just because it's beautiful.
Hold on. It does look so familiar.
In New Jersey. Its icon,
Really pretty.
the Red Mill, is one of the most photographed buildings in the
This must be in postcards or something like that, right?
whole state. But it's not just because it's beautiful. The 19th century mill has a reputation as one of the most haunted places in New Jersey, complete with night tours that are always full. What's interesting is that Clinton is also home to the Hunterdon Art Museum, located inside a former flour mill from 1877. So picture this, a tiny town with two major landmarks. One is a contemporary art museum in an old industrial building, and the other is a red mill full of ghost stories. Kind of a weird combo, right?
Again, it's so impressive that these are all in New Jersey. Like, there's so many different places with different quirks. The elephant house got me thinking though. Why can't all houses be this, like, something like different? Imagine that. Like, if we just made, like, for example, the skyscrapers could be the, like, a huge bananas or something. That would be so much fun. But either way, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you've been in one of these towns in the past. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.